Hello and welcome to the GorillaBiker. Or I might have to call myself the Echo Biker today. I'm actually going to open this door. That might help dissipate some. I am going to get like paddy things for the walls to hopefully help it. Otherwise, I need a haircut. Otherwise, I do want to get a like one of those far away mics. You know, like the Rode mic that you can clip on and clip on the camera. We'll get it sorted. Today what we're doing is putting this this Spiegler Spiegler brake line onto the Nighthawk, which is there. Yay! So yeah, we're gonna do that. Now I'm going to do a quick run through of it because I've done brake lines before, but I also want to talk about why it's really important to replace your brake lines, which we'll probably do at the computer so it's not as echoey. But first and foremost, let me talk through what we're going to do if you've never seen this before. First and foremost, what we want to do is we're going to empty this guy right here. Okay, so I'm going to pop out these two bolts. Focus on it. I'm going to pop out these two screws, apologies. And I'm going to drain this with some paper or whatever else. It just saves some hassle later on. And you literally just want to take it out, but I'll show you that when I open it up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to pump, hold. And after we do that, we're going to crack this bleeder guy here to get as much fluid out of this line as we can. When that's done, we're going to crack off this bolt here, and we're going to remove the line. Now, I'm also going to change my brake pads, so I'll show you the brake pads on this here. Really easy to do. I'm just going to pop out this bolt, and I'll show you that too. A single brake line setup is just about the easiest thing to do ever. Mainly because of the bleeding. If you have more than one brake line, it can get a bit of a pain in the ass to bleed when you just have air in the lines, but a single brake line is super straightforward, it's very easy. So, without further ado, I'm going to drain out that brake fluid and stuff. I might not show it because, well, I just might not keep this video shorter, but I'll show you the steps as I do it. So another thing that's a good idea to do is to kind of wrap this guy up a bit with some paper, just because brake fluid is really corrosive and we don't want that. So it's also very important to keep this cap clean. So this whole guy really has to be clean. Now I have a feeling, oh, that brake fluid is nasty. If you feel that this may have been sitting on there a long time, be careful not to rip it. These diaphragms can rip if they've been on there too long. That brake fluid is so nasty. So I think you went out of focus on me, but that's okay. But just to show you this, so the seller of this bike said this brake fluid had been changed recently. That was a lie. That's like black. So we're definitely good to be changing that. All I'm going to do now is get some paper and clean this out. Before I put these guys back in, I'm going to clean them too. A bit of brake cleaner and we should be good to go. So I'm going to suck this up with some paper now. Okay, so now we have that pretty well cleaned out, as you can see. Don't worry about like if there's a little bit left in there, it's okay. It'll like dilute with the new fresh fluid. Okay, so we have pretty much all of the fluid we're going to get out of the lines now. And all I did was I cracked generally the bleeder bolt, and I just pump until there's no more fluid coming out of the line, because if you were bleeding it, like getting all the air out, you would pump, hold, you'd crack it, tighten it, rinse and repeat until you have all the air out, right? But when you're just draining the line, you can just open it and pump away to your heart's content. So now, there's always going to be a little bit of fluid left in the line when you open it, so don't worry about that too much. We're going to pop these lines off right now. Okay, so good news is we've actually got very little spillage there. Now the Spiegler set, which I'm not delighted about, doesn't come with new banjo bolts. So I need to save these ones and reuse them. I did get new washers, so we'll go through that in a second. Very little spillage, we emptied it well. Down here as well. Darkness. So now what I'm going to do is pop out all the little holders. There's one there. There's one or two here. If it would focus. One or two here. And then it just travels up behind and to here. So I'm going to whip that out there now and rerun the new line. So there's our old line out. Now, like I said, we'll go through why it's good to change these later. But yeah, I'm happy to have this thing off here. Definitely. I just want to show you something real quick. It's importante. I nearly stabbed myself in the eye with a screwdriver. That would be bad. Okay, so there's a little clip here, and I know it's hard to see because of the dark. I'm going to get more lights in here, I'm sorry. But this guy here, yeah, this clip here, there's a little hook on it right here. You want to put your screwdriver into it and just pull back, and that'll open it up. I don't know why the camera won't stay focused on it, but that little hook section of it, screwdriver in and pull back, and that releases the thing. These other ones here, they're just brute force in my experience. Also, never forgetting these little bambinos. It's a washer onto your banjo bolt, then banjo bolt through this, then another washer, and that is how it hooks up to your brake master cylinder. Very important, very, very important that you have a washer on either side, and always make sure that your old washers aren't stuck on there too. Hello, so we are pretty much done. I have to finish the bleeding later. Actually turns out that my toolkit doesn't come with an 8mm spanner. So I was using a ratchet, which is impossible to finish it properly, so I'm gonna wait and do that properly when I get I'll buy a spanner tomorrow, or what do they call it over here? A wrench. And also my tubing that I got is a little bit too big, so I'm gonna get some bleeder tube, a proper bleeder tube tomorrow to finish bleeding it properly. But for the intents of this video, I have bread. I have not bred any brakes. I've bled brakes, and I'll leave like full, more detailed videos up here if you want. This was more just like a quick rundown, and I'm going to move to another room where it's less echoey now and talk why brakes are so important, which is more what this video is about. Oh, actually, to show you real quick. So literally all I'm doing is pump, 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 hold, crack the bleeder down at the brake, and rinse and repeat. The one thing to make sure is you have to close the bleeder again before you release the brake. Because if you release this brake while the bleeder's still open, you can pull the air back into the system, which does all your good work. Also, which I've already done here, make sure you clean everything off with some brake cleaner or something. Try to keep it away from your paint, because your paint generally doesn't like brake cleaner. But give everything that could have had some brake fluid on it a quick clean. The other thing is, I'm not that concerned about not getting to ride this bike tomorrow, because now I'm not sure about the condition of the oil. I know the chain and sprocket are also original, so they need to be changed. But the oil, while the level is okay, I did think it looked a bit dirty. So I had bought this to change it out with. So instead of riding the bike tomorrow, I'm going to wait and actually give it a service and just kind of check everything else. I've already changed wheel bearings. I'm going to do chain and sprockets. I'm obviously doing brake fluid, and once the brake fluid is done, I'm going to change the brake pads, which I have over there. Again, videos up here will cover brake refurbs and everything else. I've done it all before. I don't want to rinse and repeat the same things. I'll just direct you to the other videos that will cover different things. And then I'm going to do oil tomorrow as well, just so I know the bike's in a good condition, because it's a great little bike. Clearly some things have been left on the long finger, but let's go talk about that. This room should be a lot less echoey, I think. Ooh, just get you standing on all your feet. Yeah, so, right, the reason it's so important to do brakes is brake fluid should be changed every 2 years by most manufacturer books. If you're doing track days or you're heating your brakes a lot, you're heating up that fluid, you definitely need to do it more often. Changing brake fluid is pretty easy, especially if you're not bleeding it completely dry. So if you do have air in the lines, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. And I will admit, I definitely miss my fancy brake bleeder I had back in Ireland that I did use at the Falco and stuff. Again, video links up there. I think it's that side. But anyway, I do miss that, definitely. Was very, very handy. But the other thing that people fail to realize, and this is partially why I wanted to make this video again, just to recover this. You know, people message me saying you don't need to change the rubber brake line. It's good for the life of the bike. You know, why are you changing the rubber brake line? It's definitely just brake fluid. And certainly the brake fluid had an effect. That brake fluid was very old, very dark, so it had taken on a lot of water. Because brake fluid is hygroscopic, so it absorbs water over time. And just sucks, essentially. Water and air and everything else gets into it, and the whole point of your brake fluid is it's an incompressible fluid. So when that gets shit into it, that may or may not be compressible, it just basically makes your brake feel go away. You can get pulsing and everything else. And the other thing is brake lines do need to be changed. Rubber brake lines are not for the life of your bike. They're just not. What happens is rubber degrades, particularly somewhere like this where there's a lot of sun. They can also get rotted in wet, damp conditions like Ireland. Rubber brake lines degrade and they can swell when you put pressure into them, which is what you do when you brake, right? You're putting hydraulic pressure into that line. And if it swells, what's happening is all that energy that's supposed to be getting to push your brake pistons out, to push your brake pads against your brake disc, to stop you. If you lose any of that power, someday when you heat up your brake fluid, which makes it more expandy, and again, if it's contaminated, it's going to get worse. That's why you get brake fade. That's from heat. Everything heats up and it just does its job less efficiently. That's why it's so important to change your brake lines, because as they swell, they just kind of get sucky. And the thing that concerns me is, right, you know, people were saying, oh, buy a rack for the bike first, your brakes are fine. Buy this for the bike first, your brakes are fine. The first thing I want to do is my brakes. They're the thing that stop you being dead in an emergency, right? Your brakes are the most important thing on your bike. It's why I've always, you know, I've made a lot of videos on brakes. I've always been quite anal about brakes. They are probably the singular most important thing on your bike, right? Engine can make it go, great. You can go super fast if you want. You know, you can have the best wheels, you know, the slickest sports rack on the back to carry your bag, but it's all worth nothing to you if your bike pitches off the side of a cliff, with or without you on it, because you don't have brakes. So that's my little rant. You know, people contacting me saying, oh, don't worry about the brakes, they feel like that because they're old. That's a fixable quantity. Brake lines are serviceable. Please, if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, bring it to a garage, put some braided lines on there if you want. Number one, you'll improve your brake feel, which can be a bit much sometimes on a single line system, so do be careful of that. Sometimes the brake bite is going to be too firm. You can also replace it with rubber lines. Nothing wrong with that. Personally, I like going steel braided because they last a long time. They have a lifetime warranty, but a lot of them are limited lifetime, so you know, you get like 10 years or whatever else. But they're definitely sturdier than rubber and they last longer than rubber. And then you just need to bleed your brakes however often you feel like. I used to bleed my brakes on my Gixxer. I don't know what I was going to say there. I used to bleed the brakes on my Gixxer every 2 to 3 track days because of the heat cycles, whereas a road bike will last a lot longer. Brakes don't get as hot, and you should be fine. A good way to tell is your brake feel. If you notice it start to go and you have braided lines on there, probably time for a change. And also the color. They do get discolored. So the new brake fluid in my bike is almost clear. The old stuff was black brown. It does matter where you start from. It does matter where you start from. If you start from like a goldeny browny brake fluid, which is absolutely fine, some manufacturers do that, then obviously the level of darkness as it changes. So my clear brake fluid, it's going to be really easy to tell when that gets a bit dirty. So what's the point in going anywhere if you can't stop? You know what I mean? It's just you're gonna get hurt. I could hurt someone else. Worst case scenario, you could hurt your bike. Let's not hurt our bikes, okay? Come on, bikes are important. Bikes are important. Anyway, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. I do apologize about echoes. All of this is a new work in progress. People who've been with the channel a long time, you've been here before. I will get there. I had a power supply fail on my PC. I had to replace that, which is why I've been down a little bit. The stuff going on at home in Ireland that I'm also, you know, that is affecting my mental capacity to make videos. There's a lot of stuff going on, but the main thing why I missed videos is power supply failed on my PC. So we're back up and running. And also I do want to buy sound insulation things for the garage because it is too echoey in there and I don't like it, but we'll get there, If you would like to see any of the rest of the service items on the Nighthawk, please do let me know in the comments, or I probably won't because I've done a lot of them before. But what's coming up next is chain and sprockets, oil, an oil filter, and I'll probably do the steering head bearings because I think they feel a little bit loose. They're not notchy, but definitely a little bit loose, which is I think causing a bit of steering wobble on the bike, which isn't nice. And because Toaster's going to be riding that bike, I want it in tip-top shape, so we'll get there. Anyway, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, a massive thank you to my patrons. I know you've all been super patient with this whole moving country thing. I do apologize. Power supply failures and everything else, it's just been kind of one thing after the other, so it feels like that anyway, but no complaints. My life is good, my life is great. We're going to get another bike in the new year so we can ride places with Toaster, so please do stick around with the channel as I am in this weird rebuilding phase. I think I just had the best year ever on the channel. You know, YouTube sent me out that this is how your channel did thing, and it was really nice to see that, considering I pretty much have missed a month and a half of videos, which kind of hurts my soul. But yeah, I appreciate everyone for sticking with me. And yeah, until next time, thank you again for watching. Adios. Outro crew. I shouldn't even ask this because I know I'm right. In your opinion, which could be more than likely wrong unless you agree with me, in which case you're a genius. What is the most important component of a bike? For me, it's tires and brakes, because without tires and brakes, you can't stop good. You put crap tires on, you're asking for trouble, and if you don't look after your brakes, you're asking for trouble. So let me know. Bye, Outro crew.